children, today we are going to discuss Unit 2 Prose, The Wind on Haunted Hill. It's a simple and interesting story written by Ruskin Bond. Ruskin Bond is an Indian writer and he has written more than 40 books for children. Children, have you ever wondered where the wind comes from and where it goes? No one can tell or nobody knows where the wind comes from. The story, The Wind on Haunted Hill, mainly revolves around the happenings of one day in the life of the central character, Usha. Usha is a 12-year-old girl who lives with her younger brother, Suresh, her grandfather, and her neighbor, as well as her friend, Binya. It's even more mighty the day Usha is on her way back from the bazaar. A deep rumble echoes down the slope, and a sudden flash of lightning lights up the valley. And so Usha rushes into the ruins on Haunted Hill. Children, why is a particular hill called the Haunted Hill? It's called because the ruins all over made the hill spooky. Then she sees strange shadows and little Usha shivers with fear. Watch the video presentation and enjoy the story, children. So, we will be discussing section 2 in our next video.
Hoo, woo, woo, cried the wind as it swept down from the Himalayan snows. It hurried over the hills and passes, and hummed and moaned in the tall pines and deodars. On Haunted Hill there was little to stop the wind, only a few stunted trees and bushes, and the ruins of what had once been a small settlement. Haunted means a place where ghosts are found. Stunted means not developed properly. In above context, small settlement can be understood as place of living. It is clear that the above paragraph is describing a place on snowy mountains. It is also clear that the area around the house is open, and as the wind blows, it makes sound. On the slopes of the next hill there was a small village. People kept large stones on their tin roofs to prevent them from blowing away. There was nearly always a wind in these parts. Even on sunny days, doors and windows rattled, chimneys choked, clothes blew away. Rattle means to produce knocking sound. It can be inferred that in the area, wind blows throughout the year. Since the area was open and wind was fast, people used stones to protect their house roof and clothes. 3 children stood beside a low stone wall, spreading clothes out to dry. On each garment they placed a rock. Even then the clothes fluttered like flags and pennants. Flutter means to move irregularly. Flutter is used in describing motion of bird's wing. Because of wind, clothes were moving in similar fashion. Usha, dark-haired and rose-cheeked, struggled with her grandfather's long loose shirt. She was 11 or 12. Her younger brother, Suresh, was doing his best to hold down a bed sheet, while Binya, a slightly older girl, Usha's friend and neighbor, was handing them the clothes, one at a time. Once they were sure everything was on the wall, firmly held down by rocks, They climbed up on the flat stones and sat there for a while, in the wind and the sun, staring across the fields at the ruins on Haunted Hill. "I must go to the bazaar today," said Usha. "I wish I could come too," said Binya. "But I have to help with the cows and the housework. Mother isn't well." "I can come," said Suresh. He was always ready to visit the bazaar, which was 3 miles away, on the other side of Haunted Hill. "No, you can't," said Usha. "You must help grandfather chop wood." Chop means to cut. Their father was in the army, posted in a distant part of the country, and Suresh and his grandfather were the only men in the house. Suresh was 8, chubby and almond-eyed. Chubby means thick and round in shape. "Won't you be afraid to come back alone?" he asked. "Why should I be afraid? There are ghosts on the hill." "I know, but I will be back before it gets dark." "Ghosts don't appear during the day." "Are there many ghosts in the ruins?" asked Binya. "Grandfather says so. He says that many years ago, over 100 years ago, English people lived on the hill. But it was a bad spot, always getting struck by lightning, and they had to move to the next range and build another place. But if they went away, why should there be any ghosts?" "Because grandfather says, during a terrible storm one of the houses was hit by lightning and everyone in it was killed." "Everyone, including the children?" "Were there many children?" "There were 2 of them. A brother and sister. Grandfather says he has seen them many times, when he has passed through the ruins late at night. He has seen them playing in the moonlight." "Wasn't he frightened?" "Frightened means to become fearful." "No. Old people don't mind seeing ghosts." Usha set out on her walk to the bazaar at 2 in the afternoon. It was about an hour's walk. She went through the fields, now turning yellow with flowering mustard, then along the saddle of the hill, and up to the ruins. Set out means to start something. Ruins means remains of a house. Saddle of the hill can be understood as the area between 2 hills. The path went straight through the ruins. Usha knew it well, she had often taken it while going to the bazaar to do the weekly shopping, or to see her aunt who lived in the town. Wildflowers grew in the crumbling walls. A wild plum tree grew straight out of the floor of what had once been a large hall. Its soft white blossoms had begun to fall. Lizards scuttled over the stones, while a whistling thrush, its deep purple plumage glistening in the soft sunshine, sat in an empty window and sang its heart out. Crumbling means something breaking into small pieces with time. Haunted house was old and its wall would disintegrating with time. Blossom means cluster of flowers. Scuttled means to run quickly with small steps. Thrush is a small medium-sized bird which sings song. Plumage means the feathers of a bird. Glistening means shining. Sang its heart out means to let out your emotion. Above paragraph describes the ruins as a haunted place. Usha sang to herself, as she tripped lightly along the path. Soon she had left the ruins behind. The path dipped steeply down to the valley and the little town with its straggling bazaar. Tripped means to catch one's foot on something and stumble or fall. Straggling means irregular and spread in all the direction. Usha took her time in the bazaar. She bought soap and matches, spices and sugar. None of these things could be had in the village, where there was no shop, and a new pipe stem for her grandfather's hookah, and an exercise book for Suresh to do his sums in. As an afterthought, she bought him some marbles. Afterthought means to add something later. Initially Usha planned to buy only some book for her brother, but at the last time, she decided to buy marbles too. Then she went to a mochi's shop to have her mother's slippers repaired. The mochi was busy, so she left the slippers with him and said she'd be back in half an hour. Mochi is the person who repairs old footwears. She had 2 rupees of her own saved up, and she used the money to buy herself a necklace of amber-colored beads from an old Tibetan lady who sold charms and trinkets from a tiny shop at the end of the bazaar. Amber is a translucent material obtained from plants. It is used in making jewelry. It is yellow in color. Charms and trinkets are small jewelry which can be bought for very less price. Usha met her Aunt Lakshmi, who took her home for tea. Usha spent an hour in Aunt Lakshmi's little flat above the shops, listening to her aunt talk about the ache in her left shoulder and the stiffness in her joints. Ache means pain. Stiff means firm and difficult to bend. She drank 2 cups of sweet hot tea, and when she looked out of the window she saw that dark clouds had gathered over the mountains. Usha ran to the cobbler's and collected her mother's slippers. The shopping bag was full. She slung it over her shoulder and set out for the village. Cobbler and mochi are synonyms.